What's the oddest thing that's ever been in the shop?
That's a tough one. All the human stuff is always very odd. I think human bones always have that kind of oddness to them. The human fetus was very odd. We saw it last time. Since then, I think we had a whale vertebrae come through. So that was pretty odd. Caught me off guard, man. Two-faced kitten. We have one of those. So that one's pretty odd. There's been 2 embalming machines come through so far. We had one that was from the 50s, one that was from like the 40s. It was kind of nice seeing the evolution of those 2 machines. Was kind of nice. Yeah, it's tough to say.
How did you get the well vertebrae? How big was that?
It was sizable. It was from like point to point. It was about this wide, probably about that tall, about like that deep. It actually had a carving in it, so it was like the inner part where the actual spinal cord went had a little face kind of carved into it. A guy had unearthed a storage unit and basically found it right in there. And he came down here and was like, hey, this is something that I think might be up your alley. So took it in. It was really old. It was fossilized already.
Oh yeah.
So it was definitely an old piece, but it was pretty cool. Yeah. And that one went within a few weeks. It was not here very long.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And like with the embalming machine, it's kind of sold as is, right? You can't check to see if it works.
I mean, you could tell it did not work.
Yeah.
The one that we had from the 50s had a lot of cobwebs in the back. It was very clearly sitting somewhere for a very long time, so it didn't have any use whatsoever. Missing the top a little bit too, so it wasn't really. You couldn't put fluid in there and really have it work. But I don't think anybody was really going for that. It might have been a great fish tank.
Yeah.
Honestly.
that is a crazy thing. So human bones, and then what's the reaction to that kind of stuff? Is it different than is it different than the regular stuff you have, or the human bones and the embalming get more?
I think the embalming machine didn't get as much as I thought it might have. Human bones and the fetus always get a lot more reactions, just because it has that. It can be part of me, it can be part of you, kind of thing. When you're seeing a beaver or a puppy in a jar, you're a little more disconnected than that. Whereas if you see the bones that could be inside your body, it's always a little bit more off-putting that way. So,
yeah, is that something you want more of, or you like the variety?
I would love more of them. It's definitely a little bit rough right now. There's been a grave robber in Pennsylvania that kind of messed up everything for everybody right now. He went through and robbed about 200 and something graves and was selling his stuff on Instagram. I never bought anything from him, thankfully. I wouldn't have trusted that kind of source, honestly. Plus, you could really tell with the stuff he was selling that it was not medically prepared, which is the biggest thing we look for, is medical preparation, because that's really where it's legal, And it was very obvious that his stuff had been in the ground, and you really shouldn't be touching that kind of stuff. So,
what's the difference between medically prepared and?
Basically, it was either he was hanging in his school or hanging in a classroom, or was operated on by surgeons teaching, mostly. A lot of the old, hanging skeletons that you used to see were real skeletons, and a lot of those get parted out once they are past a certain age, or if they get broken, they get sold off, just the parts of them, because sometimes the arm might break off and you want to have just half a skeleton hanging there, so they'll sell off just the parts, and it makes things good for the school and things like that too.
Is there like certain ways that they piece the bones together that make it medically prepared that you can tell? Or I guess what I'm saying is, like, if two bones came in, would you know which one is the medically prepared?
Yes.
And how would you know the difference?
The biggest thing is the pins. So they'll put pins in there to like hold them all together. Skulls are really obvious with that because they'll usually have the springs holding the mandible and your cranium together. Whereas if it's just out of the ground, it's just straight out of the ground. There's no pinholes, there's no sutures, there's no medical cuts usually. The ones that are cut on top, excuse me, are usually a pretty big giveaway that they've been prepared that way because you'll have the cranial cut. And you can see the pins that are holding those things in. That's usually the biggest indication of that. So,
How did you learn all this? Because it's not like you have this knowledge. I mean, did you call someone or how did
no,
it work out?
honestly, it kind of just falling into it. Honestly, it's been more of I've seen these things so often now, and looking back at what I have seen that was hanging in schools and hanging in, different colleges, things like that, kind of putting those things together, like, okay, so if it has these pins, if it has this kind of thing, and then doing a little bit of research once that I kind of had to figure out what was going on. A little bit of research on the internet helps out too. But for the most part, it was just seeing things in schools and recognizing what the points we need to see are. Also, just knowing if they're fake bones or not. That's been a big thing that I've had to look into as well because we've had a couple of people come with really nice looking skulls. And I'm just like, this is replica. This is actually not a real skull. And the biggest thing is, translucency of light, just the detail in things that wouldn't be cast is always a good indication too. So all those little things is what I'm looking for usually.
Yeah, are you worried that someone's going to bring in some count or illicit bones? I
Oh yeah,
guess.
no, it's always a worry, especially right now with everybody trying to unload all the stuff they had gotten from that one guy. There were some museums and things like that had actually not any museums here in town, but there were some museums across the country that had bought things from him, and now have to turn them over because they're evidence effectively, and they were somebody's loved ones who were buried and not meant to be dug up and sold like that. The big difference with medical preparers is that they have signed their body away to science. They have said, I'm going to donate my body to science. And once you do that, you really have no say of where your body goes. If you want to have your body specifically for a certain kind of research, you don't really have that kind of say, unfortunately. And so I think once you're okay with that process, I know for myself, if I donate my body to science, I don't care where my parts go. It's for me, it's just a vessel. So it wouldn't bother me where they go. But that's not true for everybody else. If you were interred in a cemetery and things like that, it's important to you, and you were there for a reason. So it's not a great thing.
No, and the people that get dug up. I mean, how do you put them back together? I don't know. Is there DNA in bones? Do you know?
I believe there's some, but I mean in the bone marrow. But after a certain point, all that's going to go away. I'm not an expert in that kind of field, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But as far as I know, bone marrow does have some DNA, but it's not going to last forever. Some of these bones were in there for a long time. I know that the person in particular who was robbing the cemetery had picked a really old, rundown cemetery, so most of those bones have been there for a very long time, which is almost worse. I mean, it's all bad. There's really no good or bad scenario in this. But I think like the biggest thing is trying to figure out a bright side to this in a way. Well, that's not true at all. There is no bright side to this. I don't know. I don't know how they would actually put those things back together. It's I was talking about with a friend of mine who brought this whole thing up to me, and he was like, I don't know how the police would even handle this. Like, I do not envy them whatsoever. Their job is hard enough as it is. This kind of case where you have 200 something bodies, you have to then notify loved ones if there is a next of kin, at least. Like I said, some of these cemeteries are very, very old. I can't even imagine what the undertaking of that might be.
Yeah, that would be that'd be crazy. I mean, there is a fine line between appreciating something that, like, behind you there's a chess piece of a
Yeah,
human,
yeah,
and you can appreciate that, you can look at it and study it. But then stealing someone's loved one at some point, it's it's weird. How do you make that distinction between what you have in the store and, not that you're stealing,
Yeah.
but how do you make that distinction?
Like I said, the biggest thing is they were donated. They made the choice when they were alive to donate their body to science. And I think, like I said, I'm already on that list, myself. It's one of those things that it's not just for research purposes, but also for organ donation. There's not a whole lot of organs right now to go around. And I think that can really, they always say it can save a life, and it's true. But people look bad on it because you may not get the care you would if you weren't an organ donor. Like they might let you expire faster. That's just not true. Those things are there's the Hippocratic Oath is through and through to everybody who's out there, and no one's going to let somebody else expire before their time is up just because they might want that juicy heart. So I think the biggest thing is consent. With its day and age, that's kind of the buzzword, and it's true with the bones as well as it is everything else. Could the animals who have passed away consent to having their bodies in jars? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough line there. I think the biggest thing that we look at is, would they feel like they're still in that body? It's hard when you see animals that bond for life. When I've seen pigeons, like I saw a pigeon get hit by a car, and they bond for life, and its mate was just standing there, like mourning effectively, and it's. When you see that kind of thing, even though it's just a pigeon, it cuts right to the soul, and elephants bond for life, things like that they have clear bonds between each other. Would they be okay if they were in a jar? I couldn't tell you that for sure, but it's a weird kind of question to think about. That's for sure. That's an odd one.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people like it. You got a store.
Yeah.
You like it, but
Yep.
there is that line.
Yeah.
And it's, do you have medical examiners come through and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, we've had a fair amount of doctors, fair amount of medical examiners, a lot of morticians. I would say it's a hot spot for people who have this kind of fascination already in their life, want to see the rest of it. People who already are veterinarians come through quite often. People who already are, doctors come through quite often. And luckily they'll impart knowledge to me. It's almost one of the best parts of the job is, if I get horse dentists to come through and show me their tools, that's just the tools that a horse dentist use compared to what you normally see is crazy stuff. They're massive pliers to pull out horse teeth. And, we had a skull in here and the guy was, give me all the knowledge he could about, how old the skull might be because of where you see the teeth kind of growing and things like that. All these little things like that, I love. When you have people who are smarter than me coming in, and a lot of people are, it's a joy. When we have authors come in who know their craft and know their subjects, it's fantastic to listen to. It's one of the best days in the week.
I never thought about a horse dentist.
Yeah.
That's one that I've never thought of.
And he was traveling too.
Oh, wow.
He actually traveled from another state. I don't want to say which one because I'm not sure he was supposed to be traveling. But he'd actually traveled here to help out, somebody here. Was a friend of a friend kind of thing. And showed me his traveling toolkit. And yeah, like the pliers were like this long because you got to get all the way back to that back tooth. And that's a pretty big mouth. So really, really wild stuff. I talked to him for a good hour, I would say.
Do you ever wonder like what it'd be like to see an autopsy or anything like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that has interested me for a long time. And, going back to the stuff we do with animals here, we do a lot of skinning stuff here. We do a lot of dissection and stuff for the diaphanizations and whatnot. So it's definitely something that has crossed my mind. I've done that stuff in school. I haven't done human dissection, of course, but I've done uh, animals, things like that. It's tough to say if I can handle it or not. I think that I have enough scientific kind of objectivity where I could step myself back from that and still not looked at as this is somebody who was here and feel that kind of sadness. I'm definitely I'm definitely an emotional person to a fault. Uh, like talking about, pigeons and whatnot. So it's definitely one of those things that if I get my mind working, it's going to be hard to pull myself back out of. But I think I can handle that. Yeah.
Being that you are emotional and pretty much a teddy bear,
Yeah.
how do you do the dissections and wet specimens and all that?
I mean, the wet specimens is it can be tough. I never do my own pets because I can't. That would be heart wrenching. I've buried all of my own animals that have passed away because I just can't. I can't. It's not that I don't want their skulls. Honestly, we had a great day, and I would have loved to have her skull. Because she was so big and goofy. And she was awesome. And but there's no way I would ever be able to do that. It's just preparing her myself. I there's no way. I would cry for days. I cried for days when she died. There's no way I could do that. I would cry for even more days. So it's the easy thing I think is that I didn't know them. And that's kind of where it comes down to if I was in a human autopsy thing. I didn't know these animals behind me. So when I'm injecting them, there is that bit of sadness, like when a very cute puppy comes in that's passed away before its time. That hits you hard. You can't look at that and not feel something. But at the same time, I think there's enough separation to say, they have been now moved on. I don't view the bodies as vessels any longer. They've moved on past that. So it's more of this is now a way to honor who they were, and it's a nice way for all of us to have that kind of study and everything else that goes along with having bodies and things like that here. So it's definitely one of those things that I can see the artistic part of it. I can see the scientific part of it. And that allows me to kind of step forward with it.
If you could go back, what would you tell yourself before you opened this business?
That's a tough one. I think going back, there's not a whole lot I really would change. The only things I think I would tell myself would be just trust the process. We were fortunate enough that when we started this, we jumped in both feet. There was no backup job. This was what it was going to be, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We came in and said, "This is what we're doing. This is our new job from now until whenever," and I don't plan on there being a whenever. So, it was hard to nail down the right products. I think when we started out, I think there's a few things I think we could have started out earlier, like clothes. Bringing those in earlier might have been better for us. But for the most part, it all had to happen the way it happened. It all had to evolve in that kind of way that we found out what people wanted, what they didn't want. We first opened up, it was a kind of a shotgun blast of products that we just put on a table. We're like, "Hey, do you like this?" Coming from a service-based kind of industry before this, it was very much customers came in, they said, "I want this." You went, "Cool, give me half down. I'll buy the stuff to make it happen. I'll make it happen, and then you give me the rest of the money." Whereas retail is you just put stuff on a table and go, I bought this. Do you like it? And it's a whole different animal. So it's a lot more risk involved with that. But at the same time, it's a lot less stress because you're here. You have a store that people come to. You promote the store as this is where we're going to be. They know where it's going to be. Once social media kind of kicked off and really let everybody know where we're at, it just kind of all rolled from there. And yeah, I think the origins of Cemetery Pulp and kind of where it came from had to happen the way it happened. I don't know if there's anything drastic I would tell myself to change. Maybe just include a day off would have been good to start off with, maybe. But at the same time, you know what? 7 days wasn't that bad for a while. For 3 years, for 7 days, wasn't that bad.
What was the mission of the store when you first opened, and has it changed?
When we first opened, we just wanted to make a place where weird, nerdy folks could come and hang out and buy stuff they liked that they couldn't get anywhere else. Stuff that they may have wanted to buy online, but felt either they weren't getting the right thing or the ethical thing or the even not counterfeit thing. There's always a chance when you buy a skull online, it might show up crushed or it might show up as a fake. There's always those kind of things you have to worry about. And I think walking into a store and being able to pick it up and look at it in your hand is a whole different thing. And that goes with the clothes too. A lot of these online retailers sell clothes online, but you don't know the fabrics they're using. And sometimes they're really nice fabrics. There are some people that hide behind the online thing and some people who get kind of hidden behind the online thing. And I think we try to focus on more people who get hidden to kind of bring them to the forefront for people who don't have a chance to touch those products in real life. So you go to these nice retailers and they've got all their stuff on display, but the stuff that you only buy online, now it's here, so you can have a chance of actually trying it on or just touching what the material feels like. It's a whole different ballgame. And then there's even stuff like the wet specimens. You really can't ship that kind of stuff. So you need to find a place that's local where you can actually walk in and everybody knows your name, kind of like Cheers, but for dead stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going for.
Was there products that you thought were just going to kill it, and then you open the store and you're like, damn?
Yeah, definitely. One of the ones that hurts, I think, the most still, because I'm a big giant nerd, is board games. I really thought like the Arkham Horror board games, like the Cthulhu Mythos, things like that would just be a slam dunk. If you had Star Wars board games and Lord of the Rings board games and Cthulhu, stuff, it would be this would be a hit for everybody involved. And we tried real hard to push that. And it never went anywhere, unfortunately. We tried board game nights, try to bring people into the store and try out the games for free. Come down for free and sit down and play a game for an hour and a half. No pressure. And even then, it was hard to get people in the store. And if we came back around to it now, would it be any different? It might be because we have a bit larger presence online. But at the same time, I'm not sure I want to go back down that road and put the money into it if it's already failed once, unfortunately. Plus, there's a lot of really nice board game stores in town, honestly. There's a plethora of really well put together board game stores here that we wouldn't have the space to do. So let them have that,
Are you still doing the Dungeon and Dragon night?
Definitely. Yeah, that has the games have gone really well. The hard part right now is the same thing I think everybody else is feeling. It's physical books kind of falling to the wayside to digital, and I think that's kind of been a big problem with this hobby in particular. A lot of the books have been not pushed as much as a digital aspect has been. So that's kind of, for a retailer, it makes it a little bit rougher. But we still sell a lot of dice because people love dice and they're pretty and they're shiny and they're, people love to roll them and the sound and everything else that goes along with that. So there's still, the physical aspect of that is still there. We do miniature painting classes with a great teacher who's taught me a lot about painting myself. just because I was never great at painting the miniatures at all. It was also time. And now that we teach a class here, I take the class. So I have a 4-hour block at least once a month where I can sit down and paint. So it's kind of it's one of my nerd times that I carve out for myself now. So it's nice.
Are there things that you carry now that you didn't think that you would have carried back then?
Yeah. Some of the beauty products that we carry now, I did not think we'd carry. We tried making our own for a while and they didn't go as well. So we started bringing some stuff in that was branded, and that's gone pretty well. I was kind of surprised that it did as well as it did. The clothes was honestly a surprise when we started doing that. There's a lot of retailers in town that have a similar aesthetic, as far as the clothing goes. But I think we try to still set a little bit apart. We're not doing the exact same thing as everybody else does. Try to find the clothes that other brands that people aren't carrying in town. Try to set yourself apart a little bit. There's been a couple stores that have opened up with the direct retailers too. Doll's Kill just opened up in Area 15, so trying to not step on those toes, trying to find our own little niche. It's been working pretty well though.
Has the people that come to the store, have they changed, or is it pretty much the same type of people?
I think it's pretty much the same type of people. I mean, we get a lot of tourists. We definitely have a fair amount of international tourists come through, which has been nice. It's really cool to see how far that reach can go. That's been awesome. Excuse me, hold on. It's crazy to see how far the reach of the store can go. How many people actually know about it. I actually had someone from England came down and his wife couldn't come and he was here on a convention. And she was on the phone with him the whole time because she was like, I really want to go to the store. And I'm not going to do the accent. I really want to go to the store. And I couldn't be there. So I had to FaceTime with my husband. So at least he can buy stuff for me and bring it back, so she was super excited. And he was just kind of like, he was in awe, with what we had too. So it's been really, really nice to have the aesthetics that we put out still draw enough attention that it's pulling people from that far away. It's been pretty awesome.
Was the WWE thing? What did that do to the store?
Oh my God!
What's the lady's the
Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, she seems really cool.
She was super nice, honestly, super duper nice. She was incredibly nice, really personable. Talked to me like a person, like it wasn't like anything crazy like that. It was fantastic. The whole experience was a little rocky to begin with because there's a lot of NDAs go along with that. And because their schedule with shooting and all that stuff, it was tough for them to nail down a time when they're actually going to be here. And initially it was supposed to be before we opened the store. And then we had to close the store for a couple hours while they shot, which was uneasy for me. I don't like closing the store at weird times like that. Because one of my things that I hate, we do have a day we're closed now. We're closed on Tuesdays. And people will tell me, they'll come in on Wednesday, like, oh, I tried to come down here on Tuesday. It's like a pit in my soul, honestly. If people come down here trying to come to the store and they can't come in, it hurts me on a personal level, honestly. It sucks. But we shot the thing with her and it was great. She was fantastic. She was super duper nice. And they couldn't really tell me when it was going to air. They said, well, we don't really know if it's going to air at all, ever. It might not be used at all. So we can't really give you the footage. We can't do anything with you, but here you go. We'll try to promote the name if we can. And it turns out they gave it a really good spot. So the Netflix show, and they put the name very prominently in the front of the segment, and it blew up. Honestly, it really did a lot for us. And luckily, it was right around the time we were doing a promotion with other spooky stores in town. So we had a little punch card promotion. So while we were getting all this kind of influx, it was going out to everybody else in the city too. So it was a great kind of just complete mixture of these things all happening all at once, just making everything go great. So it was fantastic.
So you're able to share the exposure with other people in the community.
Yeah, it's been great. We did a punch card last year where if you went to different stores and spent X amount of dollars, you get a little punch card and you get entered in a contest to win stuff at the end of October. And we're doing it again this year. I just ordered the cards. They should be here pretty soon. All the stores will be getting them individually, and going to do it again. And hopefully, we added more stores this time. We added Tom Devlin's Watch Museum. We added Area 51, the outpost next to Tom Devlin's. And we still have Grey Witch, Halloween Emporium, and Blasphemy on board. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
Tom Devlin, he's great.
Oh yeah, no, it's been great to kind of like loop him in with this too. So it's been fantastic.
What are the challenges of doing the night market?
The biggest challenge I think is our space. Honestly, we don't have a ton, and we used to have a little satellite building to house more vendors, and that's been rented out. We used to go all the way down in front of all the buildings in front of our little row here, and then one at the end's been rented out. So we're always trying to bob and weave with the space we have. We always want to have as many vendors as possible because there's a lot of talent in the city we want to focus on, and we want to really give them kind of a showcase. But it's just the limitations of space. So we try to focus on prioritizing new vendors when we do these markets. You know, everyone don't want to have the same people every time. You know, as much as we love a lot of the artists that come through, and I'd love to have them. If I had enough space, I would have 40, 50 vendors at one time, but it's just not practical or feasible with the space we have. So the hard thing I think is the space. Advertising has been not bad, honestly. We've been doing pretty well with advertising, so that's been rolling pretty well. The vendors will share their own kind of their own flyers, things like that, to make sure that their fans are coming out and seeing everybody else that's out here too. So it's been a really nice community to kind of give everybody their own exposure, but also share it with everybody else. So it works really well in that regard.
Did the community come with the store, or do you feel like you kind of developed that culture?
I think there was already a bit of that community here. You know, I think we gave them a place to kind of congregate. Definitely. We started out doing dark arts markets, you know, way back when. That's where we started to see this kind of community really flesh itself out, you know, and I think there was a lot of that already in the music scene. There was already that in the punk rock scene, the metal scene, things like that. There was all these people that I still see to this day from those kind of places now coming to the store. And it's been really kind of cool to see that happen. Even bigger names, you know, people who have, you know, national touring acts have come through, and I see them here in the store, and it's kind of crazy, I tell you what. But it's awesome, you know. It's been fantastic to see all that overlap that's happened. All the people who were, you know, just in band scenes, things like that, kind of coming out and doing this, and also being artists now too. So it's really been kind of a cool little overlap that way.
So in order to keep the goth market, that's what you call it, right? Goth market?
So there's we always get a different name. You know, we find that Goth Raj sale, like garage sale, but Goth Raj, that does pretty well. And that's kind of been our staple. We've kept that one around the most, but we called it, you know, Night of the Ghouls. We've called it Summerween. We've called it Goth Girl Summer. We always have a little name to kind of like make it look something new, and also have a little bit of a fun kind of theme. We did a Big Top Night Shop, where it was more of a circus kind of theme, and had clown girls right here, and we had a, you know, one of those big tents where you grab dollars out of and stuff like that. It was Cemetery Pulp bucks. We actually made our own like currency in that one, and you kind of grab them out of there, and you got a prize whoever got the most. So fun little things like that, you know. Try to have some fun.
So if you come to one, you're not, and you come to the next one, it's not going to be the same thing.
Not exactly the same thing. I mean, it'll all be the same kind of theme, you know, the same kind of feel. We're not going to get rid of the feel. It's always going to have that same kind of welcoming, kind of homey atmosphere that we really want to cultivate, even out to the parking lot. But yeah, always a little bit different people, a little bit different vendors, a little different kind of theme. Yeah.
If somebody wants to start a business, what would you tell them?
Do it. Just fucking do it. I don't know if I'd say fucking, but I'm gonna.
You can say whatever you like.
Yeah. everyone's always like, oh, well, I have to do this before I do this, before I do this. Just do it. The hardest thing is getting it off the ground. And if you're standing in your own way, you're never going to get out of your own way. You're the biggest obstacle you have. So it's one of those things that, yeah, financial restraints are there for sure, but are they going to be there tomorrow? Yeah, it's the same financial restraints you have tomorrow that you have yesterday. So just jump in there. I understand there's a lot of hesitation when people have, that, well, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. How difficult are those obstacles to actually overcome? That's really the question, and it's starting this out it was my second business. So I had a bit of an idea where to go, but this is totally different. Retail is a way different animal than the service-based businesses are. So it was a lot of the same stuff, but a lot of different stuff. The sales tax, for example, that's a whole different ball of wax when you're in retail than versus sales, service-based stuff. So there's all these little kind of things you have to worry about. Importing stuff from different countries. That's not something I had to worry about before. And it's now it's a lot harder with tariffs and things like that. It's exponentially harder. There's a lot more paperwork I got to fill out these days, and it makes that more difficult. But it's all doable. It's if you can't envision yourself doing it and actually tell yourself this is what I'm going to do, without a doubt, this is what I'm going to do, then you've already lost. That's the number one thing we said was we're not closing. Like there's never going to be a point where we say we're giving up on this because this is what we're doing, and that's the end all. And as long as you have that kind of drive obviously you gotta have people to buy stuff. That helps. But if you don't have the drive behind it, it's not going to be there. And the third part of that, if there's a third part, I'm not sure how many parts are on right now. We're going to call it the third part. Third part of that is being nice, be friendly. The biggest thing I think people who walk in here, brand new people at least, they're scared. It's that initial kind of like, well, this place is creepy. Oh, there's Satanists in here. I don't know if I want to go in here, and if you just say, hey, how you doing? Anything I can help you out with today? That instantly brings that tension down, and it's, yeah, I don't look like a nice person, but if I smile and kind of, don't mad dog everybody, that's going to be way better off, so it's there's always ways to kind of go about that to make yourself more approachable. Obviously this day and age, there's a lot more introverts out there, I feel like, and it's all something that you can't really change. But at the same time, there's things you can mitigate that with, Let's just say, like, you're not a very loud person. Well, a wave still works. That'll still break the tension a little bit. A wave and a smile. Everyone can smile, It makes a big difference. So
you say, do it.
Yep.
Don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And smile.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a pretty good 3 bullet point right there.
How long did it take for you to gain momentum of the store?
It was pretty quick. I think with the social media and things like that, the way it was pushed, that we had it going, it was just turn itself. And TikTok was a huge thing for the out-of-towners, especially. Instagram was great for the in-towners, and not that there wasn't overlap in both of those areas, but I think the biggest thing was how it looked when you walked in. It wasn't a strip mall. We did the ceiling, we did the walls, we did the floors. We made it so when you walked in here, you didn't think there was other businesses next to us. This could have been a little cottage in Salem, standing by itself, and it would have felt the same way inside. And that was a big thing for it. So it caught a lot of attention for people taking videos, which then people then share those videos, and it kind of goes hand in hand. I see a lot of businesses that don't focus on the aesthetics, and it's kind of a shame because a lot of places look amazing, but only in certain parts of their business, and it's, if you kind of take the approach that where you're standing in might also be an advertising tool for yourself, that's going to make yourself make your life a lot easier. It's going to kind of roll down those things. Everyone else is going to look at that thing and go, I want to show off I've been here. and that makes your life easier. So there was a bit of money that went into, obviously the aesthetics that were here, but it paid off. It paid off in the advertising.
Yeah, the store aesthetic is the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Branding is a big thing for me, and I've been a designer for a very long time, and the brand means a lot. When you see a post that we do or a flyer that we do, I want to make sure that even if you don't see the logo, you have an inkling that's it's us. We want to make sure that it's recognizable enough in its style that it kind of comes across as Cemetery Pulp. And that's important. It's one of those things that I think people don't really glob onto enough. It's one of those that people push by the wayside too much. But very, very important.
Yeah, it's like if you have a horror themed coffee shop or store or something, and you walk in and it looks like a smoke shop with white walls and bright fluorescent lights.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have cool gear, but it's not like this where you walk in, you're transported into like a different little world.
I hate white walls. It's the number one thing I hate seeing in any business, honestly, because you could do so much with that. You're going to get covered up by racks and product and things like that. But I mean, as it is right now, our walls are mostly covered. But if they were just white behind that, it would change the whole aesthetic in the wrong way, and it's one of those things that most people don't even notice it's there, but it kind of sets your mind at ease, especially coming in from the super bright Vegas sun outside. Walking in here, everybody goes, "Oh, it's so dark and nice and cool in here," and it feels cooler. It feels more tomby, more crypt-like, and that's kind of what we're going for, and people who walk in here want to feel that way, and it's a big part of it.
It definitely is. Where do you see Cemetery Pulp going in the future?
Ultimately, bigger. I think it's tough because it's that delicate dance of right now we fill the space very well. And everybody who comes in is, "Oh, you need bigger space, you need bigger space, you need bigger space." Well, bigger space is more rent. It's more product you got to fill. It's more product you got to buy every month. I probably have to have more employees to make sure the product doesn't walk out the door because you have more spaces. People try to hide effectively. We've been pretty lucky with the whole shoplifting aspect of it, but I mean, it's a thing, and I think ultimately I'd like more cities. I'd like to have a Cemetery Pulp in other cities. That would be the next step, I feel like. Beyond that, selling online. We don't sell anything online besides classes. That's the only thing that we sell online at all. Everything else is in store. I may ship out things to people here, but they're all people who've come into the store, and then I'll ship it to their home before they fly home. If they buy a big piece, you're like, "Well, I can't take this on a plane." Cool, I'll ship it out to you. And it's a part that's going to be tough because a lot of the stuff is very, very fragile. So getting it there one piece is going to be tough, but we're going to figure it out. So,
what events do you have coming up for the rest of the year? Are you doing the oddities?
Yeah. So we got our Goth Garage sale on the end of August. We're doing our super insect Saturday. We're doing a butterfly pinning class, bug magic, and then morning garden photo shoot all on the same day, which should be pretty fun. The week after that will be Goth Garage sale. Then we have Salt Lake City Oddities and Curiosities Expo. Week after that is Las Vegas Curiosities Oddities and Curiosities Expo. And then we'll have a market in October and November. I'm not sure the dates on those yet, but they will be at some point. And then we'll have our anniversary in December. 5 years in December.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll also have Krampus here, of course, in December. Can't keep Krampus away. And just going on straight till Christmas. So it's going to be crazy.
What's it like going on the road with the gear?
It can be nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
We went down to Phoenix in March for Oddities and Curiosities as well. And the roads to Phoenix are atrocious. We had there was 3 of us instead of 2 of us this time. And so we rented a truck that towed a trailer as opposed to like a U-Haul box truck thing. And the trailer didn't have as good a suspension as the box truck did, so it was bouncing around quite a bit. And then combine that with the roads, we broke a lot of stuff, unfortunately. But a lot of that, like I said, a lot of it was glass. Even the mystery boxes were rubbing together so much, they rubbed the color off of mystery boxes some places. It was just that kind of crazy. But, I mean, the show itself was fantastic. Phoenix was great. It was stupid hot, and even in March was they're breaking records that week, which was awesome. I'm glad we were there for that. But Phoenix was fantastic. Everybody there was awesome. So many good artists, so many good people just coming out to see us, and that was such a good time. We did LA the January prior to that. It was a much easier trip because obviously it's closer. The roads weren't nearly as bad, and we took a box truck on that one, and that made things a bit easier. But it's always a crapshoot. You know, you're going out there and bringing half the store effectively. So it can be nerve-wracking because you don't know if you brought the right thing. And there's a couple times when we were in Salt Lake, people would ask us like, "Oh, do you have this and this?" I'm like, I do at the store. Like, if you're ever 8 hours away and down in Las Vegas, make sure to check us out, you know. And I would try to offer, you know, shipping it up there to them and things like that. But people are in the moment. They're there to buy stuff at the convention, you know, and that's what they're there for. So it can be tough, but Pete from Coffin Customs always makes a large complement of stuff for us to take to the expos, and his stuff really sets apart because it's just stuff that people don't see very often. His coffin-shaped purses, they're incredible, and it's not something people do out there or anywhere else, really. It's really a one-of-a-kind piece. And it's always nice to see people who see those and then just kind of light up because they haven't seen this before. So it's really kind of cool to see that happen.
Do you feel like you're reaching a different audience on that, even though it is oddities tour?
I still think it's reaching a different audience. Yeah, I mean, even here in Vegas, you know, we would find people who didn't even know we were here, you know, and that's always great. Honestly, it's one of the best things to hear is, "Oh, I didn't know you were here in Vegas. I've been here. I lived here my whole life. I had no idea you were here." That honestly bodes well for us because it means there's still people in the city that don't know we're here, who could still come out and still kind of, you know, see what we got to offer. And Salt Lake City was great. Phoenix was great. LA was great. You know, it's more of the same kind of crowd who may have come out here for vacation, because that's the great thing about Vegas. Everybody comes out here for vacation. So it's great that way. But it was definitely great to see them in person, you know, and I saw a lot of people who I'd seen come in here from vacation, like, "Oh yeah, you know, I bought this from your store when I was down there," and it's just it's really awesome that way. So,
Chris, thanks a lot for doing this. It's really nice to catch up with
absolutely.
you.
Always a pleasure.
I can't wait to see what happens in the next couple years with this
Yeah,
store.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Untitled Interview. If you liked the conversation you just watched, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're interested, there's lots more just like that right here.